So we are going back to the world of Warhammer 40k. What do you remember about this setting overall?
There'll be some war and some hammers and approximately 40,000 of them.
Yes,
and,
yeah.
Everyone hates their life here.
Yeah, and once everyone collects the 40,000 Warhammers, the Emperor will return and Warhammer all over the place.
Something along those lines.
Yeah, that's a pretty succinct summation of this of the setting. So we're going back to talk about some of the more ridiculous, more silly, more absurd in scale aspects of it. Specifically today, this is the first of a two-parter series on the Imperial Navy. Do you want to take a wild guess what that is?
Is it the Navy of the Imperials?
The Imperium. Yes, correct. You're doing so well today, Steve. You're getting everything right.
It's hard not to.
Yeah, we're talking about the massive, oversized, ridiculous church made of nothing but guns and anger that makes up the entirety of the Imperial Navy. Because why would you ever do anything else? Are these kinds of big gunboat battleships, like, do they make sense in sci-fi? No. Are the giant guns even feasible? Also no. But who cares? They're hilarious and amazing. You see, like, the Eldar's elegant starship or whatever skimming through the void on those beautiful sails, and I raise you a building-sized macro cannon shell. Get bent, knife-eared losers. Go cry about your dead empire and worthless gods some more while mankind keeps farming its KD. What's that? You've got a bioship trying to all but swim at me through space to eat my vessel? Be a shame if I hit the full broadside button and instantly sushified your entire hive fleet. Nobody on the surrounding hive worlds will ever need to worry about food again. End of the setting, my ass. The bugs are the perfect target practice since no matter where you aim, you can't miss. There's just so many of them. These giant gun bricks are some of the dumbest, most entertaining, funniest ships in all of science fiction, and what's cooler than the very personification of brute force, holy fury, and forehead to problem solving than the Imperial Navy. Might of mankind, and maybe the only institution left in all of the Imperium that actually knows what they're doing, has reasonable organization, and is competent. And that's what we'll be covering today, or the first part of this, how the Imperial Navy is organized, what it is, what it does, some of the fun tidbits and lore about the technics and stuff that I just want to laugh at, you know, like the anti-hell shield, or the fact that some ships just can't be refueled, they just install new engines and reactors on the ship every few hundred years. The second part of this two-parter is going to be on what life is like aboard Imperial vessels. The crew, the culture, the misery, the unrelenting suck, what you're gonna have to deal with, that kind of stuff. I originally wanted to put them both together, but you can thank me later, Steve. I'm saving our asses. That was like a 2.5 hour long video when I did a brief dry record of just reading over everything I had.
That's assuming you didn't lose the audio for that one too. Then it would have been 5 hours.
I might unironically commit myself to the Emperor's warm embrace early if that were to happen. I don't know if I
think that video is just being scrapped if that happens. I mean,
yeah.
I know last time we re-recorded it, but that's because the people asked for it.
I think that might be it.
The channel might be over.
Psy is canceled. Everybody go home. So yeah, that's absolutely insane. You know, like fighting Nids, Necrons, Orcs, and Eldar. Sure, I'll die for the God Emperor. Losing a video after excessively editing it, that inconvenience, just kill me and throw me in the corpse starch machine. But before we get into things, introductions. Generic greetings and welcome to Science Insanity, a channel dedicated to bringing my love of science fiction to you guys in all its often absurd hilarity. Along for the ride and filling in as content minion and Shanghaied sidekick is my co-host Steve. Introduce yourself and praise the Lord Captain and God Emperor, slave. Steve.
Hello, I am Steve, and praise the God Emperor or something.
You missed the Lord Captain as well. 50 lashes.
Oh, I'm sorry. That praise the Lord Captain and God Emperor.
No, it's too late. 50 lashes every week for the next 6 months on half rations. Get back to work.
That it? Okay.
Seems about normal.
This seems like a vacation.
Oh man. Real quick to everyone watching, just on-screen timestamp, skip to that. That's when the video will actually start. There's some brief channel stuff that I just want to waffle around with you a bit at the beginning here. So aside from the video, the channel has hit 50,000 subs, which is frankly insane. Like, holy shit, I did not expect to get here at all, much less so quickly, especially since Psy does not upload as much as would probably be useful in the YouTube algorithm.
What are videos?
Yeah, what indeed are videos? But yeah, shit, man. I don't know what to say. It snuck up on me too. I don't pay much attention to stuff like that, so view counts or sub numbers is like a thrice a year concern for me. So yeah, we've convinced 50,000 absolutely beautiful, brilliant, amazing morons into following us. So many people make such bad decisions, Steve. It's amazing. But you know what? I will take an army of 50,000 people. Today, an obscure internet community. Tomorrow, a million-strong army flying my banner. Eventually, world domination. Anything to say to that?
No, I'm letting that sit.
You're just letting that sit?
I'm letting that sit, yeah.
Okay, well...
These are size plans. I have nothing to do with this.
No, you're getting dragged along for the ride. You're co-host and
No, I'm too busy fuming over Star Wars stuff.
Too busy coping and seething over the bad fan fiction Star Wars book.
Look, alright, I figured this out. It's only canon if I say it's canon, therefore there's exactly 7 or 8 pieces of media that are canon in Star Wars, so...
Oh my god, dude.
That's how I'm coping with this.
We're doing it, everybody. We're slowly dragging Steve directly into the nerd mindset that every single one of us has. Let's go.
Wugen's already gonna make me watch the whole series again. And by the whole series, I mean the 6 movies, because there's only 6 movies.
Depending on who you ask, there might be only 3.
Well, we grew up on the second set of 3, so those can be included.
All right, fair enough. There are some cool scenes in there, anyways. We do probably need to do like something as a 50K special. I have no idea what our audience would even be interested in. You have any ideas, Steve?
You'll get it right around 70K or something. Trust.
I doubt that, all right? The first couple times was like, hey, we hit 5K, let's do something special, and then by the time I get it out, we're already at 10K, and then it happened again, and we got to 20, and I was like, okay, I give up. I highly doubt we're gonna get, like, 50% more subs in the next, like, 2 months, but if it happens, I'll shoot you, Steve.
It was more so that I wasn't saying the timeline on it's gonna be that quick.
Okay. Oh, man. Yeah, but it's just general ideas and stuff. Like, I don't know. If anyone is watching this, feel free to suggest stuff in the comments down below. We might use
or on the Discord.
Or on the Discord. I pay equally little attention to both. I kid. We could always do that funny idea you had where we switch and you write a script and you do the sci-fi. I cannot English right now.
I've been putting in thoughts on what I would actually write the script on, so...
Yeah, so that might be the 50K special. We just reverse it and Steve takes over as narrator for a day.
It's gonna be a full video on how the Jedi Survivor book is, in fact, the worst piece of media ever known to man.
You really hate that book, man. You really hate it.
I haven't even read it yet. Absolutely hate it. I'm refusing to spend money on it. Why is it $20?
For the ebook as well, which is great.
No, it's not even the ebook. It's the audiobook on fucking Audible. What are we doing?
Late stage capitalism hitting different. Oh man. So we do actually need to get into this at some point. So let's hard swerve back into the topic of the day. The Imperial Navy, organization and structure, how they work. First things first, I'm gonna throw quite a few bastardized Latin names at you because mankind in the far future speaks High and Low Gothic. High Gothic is just shitty Latin. Low Gothic is every single language and dialect that's ever existed all at once in a massive mismatch. So technically we're speaking Low Gothic right now, but whenever you hear pretentious Latin sounding names, just throw them out because nobody calls them that. So the Imperial Navy, or the Navis Imperialis if you're an inbred Habsburg member. The unyielding fleets of mankind, the God Emperor's symbols of power and fury, the crushing sledgehammer of the Imperium of Man, and proud owner of some of the oldest, most useless junkers in the galaxy that are still serving for some reason. And there's a great quote at the top of the wiki that I was browsing that says, "If the Adeptus Astartes are the Emperor's wrath and the Imperial Guard is his hammer, then the Holy Navy is his mighty shield." And that is, in my opinion, a fat load of shit. The Imperial Navy is the most prominent line of defense for the Imperium's myriad worlds and humanity all over, but also, whenever anyone is about to receive the ass-kicking of a lifetime, whenever extinction needs to be handed out, whenever crusades are called because insert...
We just need crusades because we need crusades, man. I mean, it's like we need air.
I mean, I hate to break it to you, but God said you're bad and you're not made in his image, so I guess you gotta die. It's crusade time.
And in fact, all the gods said this about somebody, so never-ending crusades.
Well, all the gods. Are you telling me that you recognize other deities besides the God Emperor of mankind? Holy be his light, true master of mankind?
All two of them, yeah.
Okay, unironically, Steve, if you get the other one correct, I will forgive any and all bullshit in this video.
Is there actually fucking two of them?
Stop. Listen. The Imperium has two gods. Okay, there's two main gods. The Emperor of Man is one. The other one is worshipped by the Mechanicus. What is it?
The tech something. I don't know.
Come on.
The holy computer.
Damn it! You were so close, Steve! It's the machine god! I would have accepted the machine god! You were so close, Steve! You almost had it! You almost accidentally stumbled onto genius, and you fumbled the bag right at the end.
We can only have flashes of brilliance here, okay? It's a miracle I even got the number right.
Oh my god. There was a little bit of divine inspiration from Big E himself there for a second, and you just dropped the bag. You spilled the potatoes everywhere. Good job, Steve. Oh, man. Like I was saying, though, if the Imperium is on the offensive, it's not usually the Astartes that are doing it, or the Mechanicus Explorator fleets. 9 times out of 10, it's the Imperial fleet itself warping in with hundreds of warships to erase some unlucky species from the face of mankind's galaxy for the crime of existing. So while the Imperial Navy acts as the first and strongest line of defense, they're also the tip of the spear and the hardest-hitting offensive force that the Imperium has. They also do all the exterminatus and planet killing, so I think it's relatively hard to argue that they carry the biggest stick in the entire galaxy. And they're also giant floating cathedrals in space that constantly blast hymns and chants over the Vox while ramming their Aquila-shaped prow down the enemy's throats. I realized I haven't gotten you any pictures. We need to remedy that, don't we?
Perhaps. Maybe.
Okay, so I would be extremely surprised if you haven't at least seen some of these things. Pretty much all of science fiction is infested with images of the Imperial Navy. It's all over the place. It's very hard to get away from them. So you may not know what these ships are, but I guarantee you've probably seen them at least once, just because that's how popular and widespread 40K is now.
I mean, also I've watched Jingles play the 40K Demon Hunters, I think it is.
Oh, okay, well, fair enough. Then you actually...
Demon Hunters.
Yeah. So that bottom picture is a fantastic example of what a lot of Imperial ships look like. They are giant. They are absolutely riddled with guns. They look like every church ever got up, morphed to form Voltron, and then wandered off to go obliterate someone, drop the sun on their face. And they are the most ostentatious, in-your-face, over-the-top garbage that you have ever seen in your life. And they're glorious. Every square inch of an Imperial ship that is not dedicated to gunpowder or armor is covered in statues and relics and holy orrery. Or I don't know why I chose that word out of everything I could have said. Ignore that. They're just covered in religious symbols, okay? And it's absolutely fantastic to look at them. They are a wonderful nightmare of greebles and chaos.
I mean, it sort of looks like a trireme, but with like the U.S. World War II design. If there's open space, slap a gun on it.
That is actually not a bad way of describing them. I think I have a much better image here that shows the broadside of one.
Oh shit, non-sci image, let's go!
Yeah, I know, good quality, high resolution, big image, look at that. They do very much have that like heavy broadside style to them, but that's more because of how the Imperial Navy actually fights, which is something we'll get into a little bit later, but they definitely do have that style and look to them. The prow, by the way, that also feeds into that bireme trireme thing because they use it for ramming. They use it for smashing directly into enemy ships, which...
The fuck else would you use that ship for? Like, it's there to be an ornament.
Yeah, that was incredibly poor audio quality, but I'm like 90% sure you said it ain't there to be an ornament, so...
Yes, that is in fact what I said. Am I roboting? Or am I...
You were roboting a little bit for a second there, but I think you were just peaking your microphone because you got really excited for a second.
That's probably it then.
The reason that a lot of Imperial ships are all, I say a lot, every single one of them, is dressed up like this is because...
Technically, that is a lot. I mean...
Okay, yes. Every single one of them is a lot. So the reason a lot of them are dressed up dressed up so religiously and so ridiculously is because in the hyper-religious, fanatically insane future of Warhammer 40k, each Imperial Navy ship isn't really seen as like a tool or a weapon. They are seen as the personification of both the Emperor's raw might and will in the galaxy, and as some of the greatest examples of the machine god's power for the Mechanicus and stuff, which is not totally wrong because you've got like various astropaths and navigators and stuff, which in some cases are literally synced up to the raw psychic might of the Emperor back on Earth. So it's not technically wrong to say that they are extensions of his will. They can only move around and stuff FTL thanks to the Emperor. So there's a lot of religious symbolism in every single one of these machines. They
can only move around FTL because...
I was going to explain this at the end because we have like a techno section, but I'll explain it right now. The way that FTL works in 40k is you have to travel through hell, okay? Are you following?
Oh, so everyone's the Doom guy. Got it.
Yeah, and it's kind of like the Nether from Minecraft, right? You move a certain amount of distance in the warp, which is what hell's called, and you move significantly farther in real space, and then you emerge out of the warp, and you are now somewhere different.
Got it, okay. Full explanation not required anymore.
That wasn't the part I was explaining, though. You were confused about the... You were confused about the... Did you forget what you were confused about?
No, I didn't.
Okay, look, the reason that you have navigators and stuff that are sort of tied to the Emperor's will and his being is because the Emperor projects a psychic light in the warp called the Astronomicon. That is the only way to navigate. The Emperor himself is just a really big, fancy lighthouse at the center of the Imperium. Navigators see that light, and then they can, like, calculate their distance and their vector from it, and then they can plot travel between different star systems. If they cannot see the Astronomicon, they're totally fucking lost. They could go into the warp and they could emerge randomly on the other side of the galaxy, or like 500 feet from where they left, or they just disappear into the warp completely. When people are like, yeah, Imperial ships are an extension of the Emperor's will, they're kind of right, because the only way that any of these things can move around is by the light of the Astronomicon. And when there are warp storms and stuff, similar to storms in real life, they can obscure or warp the light of the Astronomicon, but since Big E is functionally a god at this point, like lowercase g, not as powerful as the big four chaos gods of hell, but sometimes he can just straight up psychically power through and guide other ships through these dangers with the light of the Astronomicon and stuff. So there is a lot of religious symbolism with how the ships work and how they navigate. It's very, very cool, and it does nothing to help alleviate the fact that the Emperor would absolutely fucking hate that this is what has happened to his Imperium. Fun fact, the Emperor was an atheist when he was alive.
So this explanation makes a lot more sense than what my headcanon was going on there after you told me everything just has to go through hell. You see, the Emperor personally put everything in hell, and then they could just escape his grasp and leave. That's where my mind just jumped to when you said that, so I was good with the explanation that I had in my head.
Well, there are the other four chaos gods, which would absolutely do that, and they're all unique flavors of fucking awful, but...
They just like me, for real.
Nurgle certainly is.
Aww.
You have no idea who Nurgle is, but the community will...
I do, because that was in Demon Hunters.
Oh shit, he does... Would you be more flattered if I said that you were like Korn?
I have no clue when that one is, so...
Korn is the big, angry, murder, rage, smash demon god. He's like the classic...
Yeah, no, that one would probably make more sense.
We are so off topic right now, it's not even funny. Like, we're so off plan.
No, that's what makes the videos good. This is what they come for.
Indeed it is. So, trying to get back on track a little bit. The Imperial Navy is also the biggest force that the Imperium has in terms of raw investment. There are absolutely more guard regiments than there are individual warships in the Imperial Navy, like by raw number, but by volume of resources, manpower, material invested, nothing even comes close. And you know that old tactician guy, like semi-famous, said something along the lines of, "He who defends everything defends nothing"?
Yeah, he might have a name or something, I don't know.
Yeah, so the Imperium threw that guy out the airlock for being a heretic because, fuck him, every single world has been divinely mandated by the Emperor as belonging to us. If millions of people, minimum, don't die in defense of those planets, everyone's a heretic. So the Imperial Navy defends every single world in the Imperium. An empire of over 1 million worlds, and the Imperial Navy has to protect and patrol every single one of them. They are a very, very big fighting force in the 41st millennium. There is no rest and reprieve for these guys, however, because even with their enormous numbers of ships and stuff, they still don't have enough resources to ever actually deal with every shitstorm blowing in from every different angle of the galaxy. And the bureaucracy would be so ludicrous if they tried to centralize it all that I'm pretty sure they would just spontaneously self-immolate. Every clerk and record keeper across the Imperium would just die immediately if they had to deal with that. So the Imperial Navy is divided up into like a Russian nesting doll of major sectors, normal sectors, subsectors, it's just smaller and smaller sectors all the way down. So that's a picture of the major segmentum in the galaxy. There are 5 overall.
Why is nobody gone left?
That's the edge of the galaxy, Steve. There is no more left you can go.
So we just have an off-center galaxy. Okay.
Dude, where do you think Earth is in the real fucking world? We're not in the center of the galaxy.
We're
off on one side. No, we're on the Orion
Nope,
arm.
We're in the middle of it.
No, we're not. We're off on the side.
Nope.
Shut the hell up. Don't tell me that you failed basic space geography. This is like a grade school.
I actually never took it, so it's hard for me to fail it.
God damn the American education system. What are they teaching you? You guys don't even have basic space geography? Next, you're going to tell me you don't know what our local supercluster is. My God.
Something along those lines, yeah.
So let's...
Oh shit, A New Hope. Is this a Star Wars reference?
Honestly, with how much 40K just steals things from other settings, it very well might be. So like I have been trying to say for the last 5 minutes, there are 5 overall regions that the galaxy has been divided up into. Segmentum Ultima is the galactic east, encompassing the largest area by raw distance, but having significantly sparser colonies and inhabited worlds within it. Both because this is the segmentum farthest from Earth and the center of human space, but also because there's a huge number of alien empires and evil nasties in the region. Like, the Necrons infest the area, half of the space Terminators live here. The Orcs are here in the ever-present number of, yes, the Tau are... The tower here too. And we have Ultramar and the Ultramarines, arguably the worst infestation that the Imperium should really just erase off the face of the universe. It's a regular old mosh pit. So the Imperial Navy has more ground to cover for less actual human habitation that they need to protect. But there are, at the same time, a shitload more things for them to fight here. To the galactic south is Segmentum Tempestus. Spooky name, very boring. One of the smaller segmentums, it's like middle of the road. It's just really, really dusty. Like, there are a lot of nebula and protostars and dust in this area, so it's really hard to see through and hasn't been explored as much and seems like a big space storm. Sounds really scary, but in reality, it's just there to cover up a fucking absurd amount of orc freebooter pirates. Like, there's so many orc pirates here. In fact, you know what? I shouldn't even bother bringing up okay, just assume that the orcs are always around every corner, and you're probably right. Do you need a picture of orcs, actually? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I think I do, but show one anyway. Why is there a planet called Storms of Judgment? Are there storms there that just judge you? Or... Okay,
well, to borrow a joke from another creator, this is the Imperium of Man, good sir. They are hyper-religious. They probably have a ship named the Litany of Litany's Litany, so that's just the kind of people they are.
This reminds me of... Okay, that's not the one I was looking for. There used to have an image that was just Crow of Judgment, but that's the only thing I can find of that. And it was just a picture of that crow that looks just like that.
That's... You found a picture of Corvus Corax. Man, that's incredible. You have no idea who that is, but people in the audience will laugh at it, because that's a 30K Horse Heresy meme.
Why the fuck is this in the Lord of the Rings universe, by the way? This GIF? What's going on in the background here, guys?
Oh my god, you spoke about the GIF. Now I have to download that and put it into the actual video so people can get context. Yes. Continuing our clockwise trek, we get Segmentum Pacificus. This is the galactic west and is also pretty small because, like I mentioned earlier, that is the edge of the galaxy. There's not really much more you can go before you're just in the intergalactic void. There is some cool stuff going on here, like the farthest the Imperium has ever explored outside of their own galaxy is in this segmentum, and it's in a region called the Halo Stars, which is a band of constellations around the outer edge of the galaxy that basically basically marks like the farthest off point you can get before you're actually just forever into the void. The Halo stars are also filled with something evil, since everyone that ventures into them doesn't come back, or they almost get there and then they come back terrified out of their mind. So it's probably orcs, maybe Tyranids. It's probably orcs. Next up, and filling the galactic north section of the pie chart.
Is orcs.
The answer is always orcs. There are, to truly get into the mindset of an Imperial Navy captain, you have to be frothing at the mouth, raging about the orcs at all times, because you will be dealing with 500 incursions by the orcs every single fucking month. It's like 10 times a day for these poor fuckers. That's what it's like being in the Imperial Navy. It just never ends.
Something, do you see torpedo boats? But real.
Next up, and filling the galactic north section of the pie chart, is Segmentum Obscurus. This is where most of the stuff happens, at least in relation to chaos and demons. This is where the Eye of Terror is, reality's anus leading directly into hell. In case you're wondering, the warp can bleed into real space. When you look at that map, all the purple-red blotches, those are areas of space where hell is starting to bleed through and is destabilizing reality. The Eye of Terror is like an actual gateway directly into hell.
Sounds like a fun place. Is that also why Fool's Paradise? Is that when we consult the map here? Yeah, Demon World. Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of demon worlds and a lot of like chaos controlled stuff around in the Eye of Terror. More DACA? Is this an entire orc world? What is this? Okay, so it's a forge world that was taken over by orcs, and that is where all their ships come from, apparently. The orcs just took over a forge world, and they were like, these are my factories now. That might honestly be the most orc thing I have ever heard of. Why have I never heard of this planet before? Man, I'm being dragged so far off topic with this one. Jesus Christ. Oh, hey, there's Armageddon.
It's fine, they'll enjoy it. Oh shit, is this a reference to the 1998 hit sci-fi movie Armageddon?
No, Armageddon is just a miserable hell world that's constantly being invaded by orcs.
Oh, so Bruce Willis is there.
Yes. So lastly, lying at the center of the galaxy and like Rome, from which all these galactic spokes radiate out of, is Terra and Segmentum Solar. Do you want to take a wild guess why this one is at the center and why it's so important?
Because that's where we live.
Yes, that is where Earth is, that is where Mars is, that is where Big E sits on his magical lighthouse throne, sending out the light of the Astronomicon across the galaxy. It's also, this sector is also the most, or Segmentum, is also the most densely packed out of all of them. Some of the biggest, most prominent worlds in the Imperium are in here, as well as some of the biggest centers of industry, commerce, and, like I mentioned, Big E himself sits on the Golden Porta Potty forever. There's also a shitload of orcs, because you can't get away from them. Each Segmentum Majoris, which is the 5 we just discussed, is controlled by a Lord High Admiral, someone who has pretty much total control over all the forces within the Segmentum. And while raw numbers of ships are entirely up in the air, the most compelling arguments and examples that I've seen put the number of ships in the millions. My preferred napkin math is around 400 to 650,000 capital ships, so cruisers, carriers, battleships, the big line of battle vessels that make up the backbone of the Imperial Navy, and then around 3 million other escort, patrol, and screening vessels for a proper metric fuckload of warships. That's about 3 times more ships than there are planets in the Imperium, and it's still not enough. Anyone...
it only gives us 3 ships per planet. I mean, I'm going to say an average of several get destroyed a year by the orcs. I mean, you got to keep churning them out there.
Several a year. Try several tens of thousands.
That's still several.
Okay, fair enough. Just like a lot is technically the same thing as all of them.
Jesus died at least 10 years ago.
Okay. You know what? That's technically the truth. The best kind of truth.
Exactly.
For anyone wondering down below, by the way, where get number sci, show source sci, me think data, not peer-reviewed sci.
It's all in his head.
No, it's not actually. I'm not pulling a Senator Armstrong. Firstly, whoever asked that question, you are a very intellectually honest ape, dear viewer. Good for you. Secondly, it's an average of sector size multiplied by number of sectors multiplied by number of warships. Every single step of which has been guesstimated by the community. Here's the napkin math. At an average average of 120 worlds per sector, the Imperium, assuming around 1 million worlds, would have approximately 8,300 sectors and 400 to 650,000 capital ships at a rate of 50 to 75 capitals per sector, as stated in official sources. It is also stated that for every capital ship, there tends to be 2 to 3 times more escorts at a minimum, often more, but rarely higher than 6 times, so I just went with 5, because overestimating 40k is usually the correct choice. That gives us on the low end about 2.5 million, and on the high end about 3.75 million ships in total. That number could be far higher, or far lower, and there's really no way to tell or factor in all the non-aligned fleets like the Mechanicus, Rogue Trader, Crusade fleets, and Astartes ships. But I do like that number. 600-ish thousand capitals, a few million support and escort ships. That feels big enough for the Imperial Navy to consistently manage and patrol the Imperium as it does, as well as establish and maintain all those massive hundreds or thousands strong battle fleets that end up getting wiped every time the Tyranids or Orcs shows up en masse. You know, every new shitstorm that blows in wipes a few thousand of them away. But yeah, I like those numbers. But in the interest of farming engagement, dear 40k nerd community, feel free to argue in the comments below about it, and ensure instead of writing paragraphs, every sentence and point you make should be a separate comment to farm maximum engagement.
Is this how we got to 50k?
I don't know, maybe.
I think it had to have been.
Baiting Nerd Wars is generally a really good way to... YouTube might be very unhappy about that, actually. They really don't like it when people try to game their metrics. They're not a fan of that.
Maybe they should be better at doing it. I don't know.
You know what? They don't like it when they don't like it when the creator does it, but there's no rule about the creator telling his fans not to do it or to do it.
See, in fact, we are not doing anything. We're just instructing you on how to if you enjoy the content.
We're just saying there is in fact a way to screw over YouTube while helping us at the same time.
Not even screwing them over. I mean,
push the content, push the content.
More money for them too. So it's...
So one step down from there, we've got regular old sectors. These are roughly 200 light-year cubed areas that battle fleets are anchored to. Though they can be way bigger or smaller, that roughly 8 million cubic light-years is an average. Some sectors might be super densely populated by forge worlds or lie right on the edge of an orc infestation or something, so the sectors are smaller and more heavily garrisoned. Or they could be entirely empty, void, several times larger than a normal sector, and patrolled once a year by a single frigate. It really depends on where that sector is. Each sector fleet is also named after its sector. So Battlefleet Gothic for the Gothic sector, Battlefleet Calixis for the Calixis sector, Battlefleet Mordaka for the Mordaka sector, I guess, if there's anyone even patrolling.
Oh shit, they've been upgraded. Full sector. It's more
well,
than just a planet now.
For the most part, Forge Worlds are more than important enough to have their own sectors, and some of them are even like the anchorage for sector fleets, so it wouldn't surprise me if...
it's in the middle of fucking hell. I mean...
Look, man...
Just noticed that.
Did you not hear me say that the entire galaxy was promised to mankind by God? Who cares if it's in the middle of hell? We still own it.
We're getting a little close to political topics now.
So each sector battle...
Why is Purgatory not in hell?
Because Purgatory is not hell. Don't you know your religious lore? Didn't you take your religious education class? Or has the American education system failed?
We didn't have those either.
The American education system has failed us again. So each sector battle fleet is assigned between 50 to 75 capital ships on average. That's like cruisers, grand cruisers, battleships, that kind of stuff. And around 4 to 5 times more in escorts. So a few hundred ships per sector. This is, again, a generalization. Below that are subsectors. These aren't actually all-encompassing or even unified in any way close to what the sectors proper are. Instead, they just describe particularly important areas. A subsector might be a single star system if it's high enough value. It might be a local cluster of systems that all work together, like a few agri-worlds feeding a hive world. Sometimes, if there's nothing of particular value, there won't be any subsectors at all. So as a better example, take Texas, right? Texas would be a segmentum, Brewster County would be a sector, and the 3 big towns in Brewster County, Alpine, Marathon, and Terralingua, are all subsectors. Is that like a good analogy? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
I put a little bit of work into making that actually make sense. And all of this has been how the Imperial Navy is organized and how it sets itself up across the galaxy. It's this Russian nesting doll of ever smaller and smaller sectors, from the biggest, the Segmentums, all the way down to maybe even individual solar systems across the galaxy. Next up, let's talk a little bit about their ship classes, because this is where things get both incredibly simple and stupidly complicated. Because, of course, the Imperial Navy is made up of a few different types of ships. The various classes are in the hundreds at this point, and I can't be bothered to go and collect them all and then list them off for an hour, but archetype-wise, there's 3 of them. Battleships, cruisers, and escorts. The first and biggest are battleships. These are monstrous vessels, comedically large. They even have grand procession ways through the center of them that stretch for a dozen kilometers just to hold parades and celebrations for the honor of probably the Lord Captain's birthday or whatever, whenever else he's bored, I guess, because that kind of nepotism and royal regal hoo-ha is very, very common in the Imperium. The smallest you'll generally find them is around 8 kilometers long, and that's getting close to the subclass of Grand Cruisers or Battle Cruisers. Grand Cruisers and Battle Cruisers tend to be an in-between, where they're ancient ships so old that they don't really fit within the Imperium's doctrine or style anymore, and while they're often smaller and faster than battleships, Grand Cruisers are still so fuck-off massive that in any other regular fleet, they just look at it and go, that's the battleship now, and it works fine. Carriers are also put under the battleship umbrella, since unlike real life, where dedicated ships with huge flight wings rule the ocean, in 40k they just hollowed out the center of a battleship and slapped like 1,000 hangars onto it, and that was good enough. The entire reason for this was because there was 2 prominent schools of thought. First was that capital ships should be the biggest, meanest, angriest brick of guns in the known universe, and should ram said brick of guns straight down the center of an enemy fleet, firing off all sides like a lunatic. The second school of thought was that capital ships should be armed to the teeth with long-range weapons and fighters, then sit back and obliterate one poor bastard at a time like you're playing Duck Hunt. Meanwhile, all the escorts and meat shields eat torpedoes and soak up enemy return fire for you. These 2 doctrines came to blows during the Horus Heresy, where the gun bricks won decisively, because the gun brick is peak evolution. It is the sci-fi ship equivalent of carcinization. All ships shall eventually revert to gun brick. In a more serious example of why it turned out this way, it was because sitting back and blasting is a wonderful strategy when you don't have the equivalent of a payday bulldozer rushing you at Mach fuck trying to sodomize you with a shotgun. Regardless though, these massive ships are the heart of any fleet they're a part of, and have dozens of high-rise size guns, lasers, and torpedo tubes so big that smaller ships can fit inside them. For the most part, and as a massive relief for the Imperium, they still do know how to make a lot of these ships. In the 41st millennium, technological regression is so bad that a lot of the tools and weapons that the Imperium have, they'll just never get more of. So if this special tank gets destroyed, that's it. You're never getting another one. They're in probably the safest in-between that the Imperium has, where the majority of them can still be built, all the different loadouts and classes of them. But some of the things that have been incredibly hard hit over the millennia are the weapons that these ships would mount. A lot of them have been forced to refit or be built with relatively primitive weapons because they're just losing a lot of the more advanced stuff, like fusion beamers and graviton pulsars are a dying breed of weapon. Well, okay, not technically dying, but the Mechanicus is full of assholes and they refuse to share any of their technology, greedy toaster humpers that they are, but for the most part, yes, these technology and these weapons are going extinct across the Imperium. Next up are cruisers, and these are the backbone of Imperial fleets and the most varied category of warship, because what can't you put on these things, quite frankly? Cruisers are generally incredibly heavily armed and armored for their size, as well as being surprisingly quick, though unlike battleships which can have it all, cruisers tend to be forced to specialize because they lack a strong enough power plant and enough space to support everything the way that battleships can. So the most common sort that you'll find is the macro cannon barge. Now, the easiest way to think about it is like an old Age of Sail pirate ship with stacks and stacks of guns along each side of the ship. That's what this is. Massive kinetic batteries that make up the the weapons load of these ships, and for the most part can only fire in relatively narrow arcs off the broadside. Macro cannons aren't particularly long range or even that effective against fast-moving or small targets, so they have to be volley fired in large numbers to be effective. If you look at any image of Imperial warship, that's what those giant guns on the sides are. The reason it's common to see cruisers use so many of them is because macro cannons don't need energy. That cruiser is probably already straining its energy grid, pumping everything into a really, really big energy weapon like a heavy plasma battery or a Nova cannon or something. The Nova cannon being an absurd railgun-esque weapon that fires a projectile near the speed of light. The ultimate rock lobber, by the way, and one of the best ways to remove anything you don't like from the galaxy.
We got dangerously close to saying rock lobster there.
I would not have fumbled into rock lobster. Stop it.
We got dangerously close. That's all I got.
We did not get dangerously close. Why are we talking about rock lobsters, Steve? How did we get
Because you
here?
said rock lobber.
Don't get hit by the Nova Cannon if you enjoy things like existing, and if you keep on with this line of annoyance, I'm going to chain you in the center of the barrel and fire it.
Once again, proving my point.
So these kinds of ships, while not particularly efficient, are incredibly effective. Being able to obliterate void shields in a single volley before ripping enemy ships in half with their really big main weapons. They just, generally have to close into suicidally close brawling range, knife fighting distance basically. The other extreme in design are things like lance boats. Instead of going all in on one gigantic energy weapon, then using a bunch of kinetics, lance boats just have a ton of medium energy weapons. Lances, for example, like a lance battery, is just a really, really, really big laser. The trade-off is that generally, energy weapons are way longer range, way more accurate, and far easier to hit maneuvering opponents than something like macro cannons are, and they don't have the charge-up time and potential to whiff like a Nova cannon. But they do sweet fuck all damage to shields, and you need multiple ships working together to get anything done. Energy weapons are also usually mounted on turrets atop and beneath the ship, so lance boats are more able to fire everything while still presenting their strongest armor, the prow, to the enemy. What you tend to see in larger fleets is the gun bricks stripping shields, brawling with the front of an enemy fleet, and forcing the enemy to maneuver or die with their huge weapons. Then, when an enemy is vulnerable or out of position or damaged, supporting lance ships or these long-range energy lobbers will rip them into pieces, targeting engines, weapons, and subsystems to cripple or destroy them, before repeating the process again with the next poor sod. In this way, a few cruisers working together can punch massively above their weight class, and there's very little scarier than a macro cannon barrage backed up by an immediate slap of lances and plasma shots coming in. That's also another point of the prow, by the way. Like, we've talked about the ramming and stuff, but they're also incredibly fat slabs of armor, so generally Imperial ships can bull rush straight at an enemy, and 90% of the ship is hidden behind their thickest armor.
Is anything ever actually going to go through that John? I mean...
It depends. 99% of the time, no, because 99% of engagements are against chaos, so the forces of hell, and they basically just use, like, older, corrupted, stolen Imperial ships. They fight the orcs, which their ships are made of garbage, so they're not getting through that. They fight pirates, rogue Imperial ships, that kind of stuff. So generally, no. If you're fighting, like, more esoteric enemies, like the Eldar or the Necrons, I mean, you're kind of fucked, because the Necrons can just disintegrate the whole ship. They'll just rip it apart atom by atom, and nothing in the universe is saving you from that.
So theoretically, nothing's still going through the armor. The armor's just ceasing to exist.
Then we've got escorts all the way at the bottom. And honestly, these guys only exist because even in space with mile-long warships, somebody still has to be the fodder. And by the way, I'm not joking about that. Generally, escorts are about 1 kilometer long. So even the quote-unquote smallest ships in the Imperium are enormous and have like trains running along them to transport men, material, ammunition, that kind of stuff to the magazines. If you're looking as like an example, by the way,
trains.
Yeah, no, these are the kind of train systems that Imperial ships actually have running the length of them.
The train on the left, the rail, just above the platform there. Why does it do that?
because the ship probably hasn't been maintained in 10,000 years, and if things are broken, they'll only be fixed if they're broken in such a way that they can't be used. That's just a very rough patch. Hold on to your butt as the train goes over it. No need to fix that one. It's just a little bit of excitement on the morning commute.
Sufficient explanation. Proceed.
So escorts are in a bit of a strange place because they fill one of two separate roles. Everything I said for the cruiser section, by the way, like you can just dupe that and slide it in here, except more extreme for like focusing on ballistics or energy weapons and stuff. But escorts by far are the most numerous and fit the rough like frigate, destroyer, corvette stereotypes that we know in real life. They're generally very weak in combat unless you field them in large numbers, and they don't carry any particularly powerful weapons. But their fast speed and often outsized sensor suites mean that they're great scouts and screening vessels. Sending a cruiser, or God forgive a battleship, off on a patrol to the ass end of nowhere is a huge waste, especially if they run into something very, very dangerous like a Dark Eldar raiding force or the never-ending conveyor belt of orc garbage. It's far more economical to let your piddly little frigates get obliterated than send a proper battle fleet to wherever their cry for help came from and fight whatever it was that killed them. Oftentimes, these small ships are also all you need. Smugglers, transports, trade ships, all of them are armed, but even something as small as an escort frigate can potentially destroy them quickly while being more than fast enough to catch them. So for inspections or patrols or anti-piracy stuff, they're also really great in that role. And it's mostly because, just like in real life, small ships have very piddly, pathetic guns and stuff like that, but they carry the great equalizer, torpedoes. Or I guess in the modern day it would be missiles. Torpedoes are the most common main armament you will see on escorts. Pretty much every single one of them will have this weapon. Again, sort of an economics thing. Torpedoes can be extremely dangerous, even to very large ships, so since your escort is so small that they don't get any decent weapons, may as well just throw a whole bunch of torpedo tubes on the front instead of macro cannons. And even if they get turned inside out by a gun bigger than their entire ship, as long as they get the danger pylons off, they could potentially score an amazing trade with an enemy grand cruiser or something. Plus, let's be real, every salvo that goes to destroying your escorts is one that isn't slapping your void shields for your capital ships and stuff, so hooray!
Most valuable resource they have, yes.
Yeah, no, the most valuable resource the Imperium has, always has been, and always will be bodies to throw into the meat grinder. As for why torpedoes are so dangerous, it's because they ignore shields. Void shields aren't like Star Trek shields where they stop like everything and magically let anything friendly move through them. They stop everything, or they stop what you tell them to. So it'd be pretty fucking stupid if your fighters returning for rearmament and refuel smash into your own void shield and explode, or if every single piece of dust and space debris was constantly bouncing off of it and draining their power. So instead, void shields are set to allow slow-moving objects through. Oftentimes, these are things that pose no threat to the ship or a Titan on the ground, so they can safely ignore them. Torpedoes are also counted in this list because they move relatively slowly compared to everything else, like kinetic weapons or lasers or whatever, right? And if the warhead is a melta-charge or atomic or whatever random ass obliterator TM the Imperium has, it'll probably rip a decent sized chunk out of an enemy ship, even one that's far bigger than the one that launched the torps. And while bigger ships can have torpedoes, we looked at a battleship in the images that has them, it's relatively rare since torpedo guidance is horrendously bad. It's about on par with that old idea of a pigeon pecking at a picture. So it's really, really not that good. You need to aim the whole ass ship more often than not, and as you can imagine, that's a lot harder the fatter your boat gets.
Just a little bit.
It's literally what happened with real life battleships that carried torpedoes, because there was a lot of battleships in real life that used to carry like underwater line torpedo tubes and stuff, but they were so difficult to use that they just started taking them off because they're like, these things are pointless. We can't turn the whole bloody ship whenever we need to use them.
But part of the issue is they were also only going 20 knots, so I mean... The half turn took 10 minutes anyway, and that was in fact no longer the position you wanted it in at that point.
It's just the never-ending rally of turn ship, aim, enemy is moved by the time we've aimed, turn ship, aim, enemy is moved by the time we've aimed.
Unless they're coming right at you. Then you might have a chance. Stick it in the water, he might turn back into it at some point.
If it's slow enough, it becomes a naval mine at that point. Maybe it'll hit them eventually. Unlike the glorious British experiments with their stupid fleet submarines and all that shit, you might risk torpedoing yourself as well.
I mean, depending on which torpedo we're talking about, I mean, it could just go in a circle. Hit them anyway.
Oh, there's so many examples of that in real life, yeah. Highly unreliable. I don't remember if that happens in 40K frequently. I know it's happened a couple times that torpedo guidance has like brought them back around or whatever, or the torpedoes have just like freaked out and just died in the middle of the battlefield, becoming a stationary obstacle for everybody else around it, but their tech is relatively unreliable. I imagine that kind of stuff would happen all the time. And that brings us to our last little segment, which is a whole bunch of random techno stuff about how the ships work, some different elements around them, and if you ever want to ask questions, this is now the segment where you're free to ask as many questions as you want. So I'm going to start with void shields, how they work. I mentioned that they let slow stuff through it, but the reason for that is because void shields don't behave like a lot of other shields. The easiest way to explain it is that a void shield is like a giant spinning cage, right? It's like a giant spinning wire cage around the ship. As things hit it, the cage absorbs that energy and then deflects it off away from the ship. But every single time something hits it, the cage loses a bit of energy as well, and it spins a little slower. So if you hit it really fucking hard with one big slap, the shield collapses and it falls apart. Stuff can now get through it. Or if you hit it really rapidly with a shitload of small stuff, that will also deplete the shield relatively quickly, and now things will be able to start squeaking through and doing damage to the ship underneath. That's one of the reasons why void shields allow smaller objects through, because they want as little taxing, like as little stress on the shields as possible. There's also a really funny interaction between void shields, where if you ram two void shields into each other, both of them will freak the hell out and might just immediately collapse because they don't like that interaction at all. So there's a really funny tactic where there are certain Imperial vessels that have like 4 or 5 void shield generators right on the front of their ship in layers. And the whole point is I'm going to ram the enemy really fast. And normally the void shield would absorb some of that energy, but because you've got like 5 void shields, you just keep ramming them into the enemy, collapsing their shields until eventually you get to the ship's hull, and then you ram into the ship's hull. It's a very silly way of doing it, but it's very in line with the Imperium of Man. If brute force isn't working, it's because you're not using enough of it.
More brute force. It'll fix all the issues.
Yeah.
Me when attempting to play a action game.
Me when I build a $10,000 PC with 5,000 gigabytes of RAM just to play Minecraft.
I mean, you need it for some of the mods out there now, but...
yeah, 100% realistic graphics. You can see the individual blades of grass. Yeah. Geller fields are also how the ships survive going through hell. I talked a little bit earlier on about like how they navigate and stuff, but when you go into the warp, reality breaks down. The real world is the real world, so the laws of physics apply and everything is stable, but when you go into the immaterium, the warp, it's a reflection of the real world, but like the emotions, the feelings, the natural order of the universe, that kind of thing, and it can be extremely chaotic. Gravity can just turn off randomly for no reason. The binding force, like the fucking weak atomic force that keeps atoms together and stuff like that, or the strong atomic force, whichever one it was, that just turns off and your ship just starts disintegrating along with you in it. Demons might just manifest on board and start trying to kill everybody, or do unspeakable things to their anus, according to Slanesh, or do unspeakable things to their anus according to Nurgle, both of which are a terrible fate to befall. And the entire way that you prevent that is with a Geller field. And a Geller field, we have no idea exactly how they work. We have a few general tidbits so that people have a sort of kind of understanding, but this is another one of those like Frankenlore things where we don't know the exact intricacies of it. But what a Geller field does is essentially project a bubble of reality around the ship that keeps all of the warp nonsense out. If a demon tries to cross it, the demon disintegrates because demons really don't like existing in reality, where the laws of physics say that they have to have things like mass or they have to have things like a physical body. There are different different types of Geller fields as well. For the most part, the Imperium uses just a bog standard, very safe, very standard one, but there are a few esoteric versions that are in extremely limited use. I don't remember the name of it, but there's one type of Geller field that projects like a spear instead of a bubble, and it allows a ship to move massively faster through the warp than would normally be possible. And it's so much faster that you basically cut travel times down by like a factor of 5. You might wonder, why don't they use that then? Why do they stick with the regular Geller field? Do you want to take a wild guess?
Because they don't want to.
No, come on, give me a real guess.
No, I refuse.
Oh, you're ruining it. So the reason they
Yes.
don't... The reason that they don't use these more advanced or more useful Geller fields is they don't fully understand the technology, and they have a habit of turning off mid-travel.
Absolutely real.
Which is a little bit of an issue when you're traveling through super hell. So, you know, they don't tend to get used much, except on very old, very esoteric vessels that, like, somehow they still maintain them properly.
And then somehow they maintain it's a mystery to everybody.
Oh no, they just actually have no idea how it works. In fact, let me get you a picture of what it's like traveling through the warp and what the Geller field protects you from. Because warp entities are not just like man-sized demons. These things can be the size of planets. They're enormous and profoundly scary. Oh wow, this is a great. Oh, I love this picture of a warp demon. This is awful. It's just a big square face with two stupid little eyes. He looks horrifying, but also friend-shaped at the same... I hate Tzeentch. I hate him so much. Everything looks so awful.
That does not look friend-shaped.
No, look, he's got a... No, it's like a shark. He's got a big goofy mouth and little silly eyes. He's friend-shaped. He's not your friend, but he's friend-shaped.
No, I heavily disagree.
Where was I? I was gonna grab something else. Another image. Oh, fuck, I lost
What do we have left of this?
We're basically done. I can end it at any point we want.
Okay.
Oh, the auto-loading thing. Where is my army of slaves loading my gun? This is the last thing, like, technically whatever funny bit at the end here that I want to talk about a little bit. And this is a widely held belief and something that's stated a lot, but I hate it, so I refuse to accept it as canon. I substitute my own reality here. Now, this is what the inside of a macro cannon looks like. Now, the reason here, what you see is a gunnery deck crew. Often these people are enslaved or they grow up in the actual bowels of the ship. The commonly held belief and justification, technological backsliding, the Imperium just doesn't have anything better. They've lost the ability to make autoloaders and stuff. I think that's a fat load of bullshit. I disagree completely. My interpretation of it, and from what I've seen, some of the guns might be loaded by hand, the smaller or less significant ones, but with how important macro cannons are, I believe, by default, the ships are built with autoloaders. They're supposed to have this kind of stuff, and the Imperium can still build it. But a lot of these ships are like 10 or 20,000 years old. They're extremely old, and they've been in and out of battle hundreds, if not thousands of times, and over time, they get destroyed, they get damaged, things break down, and because the Imperium is an organizational hellscape, instead of actually repairing them or replacing this stuff or like refitting them, the Imperium just goes, we are going to spend those resources to build a new ship, and we're just going to throw enough bodies at the problem until the problem is solved. We're not going to bother wasting mechanical manpower and industrial might on fixing this ship.
Yeah, I mean, why would you? It's more efficient to just build a new boat instead of putting a new complex device in one.
Yeah, so over time they slowly lose this capability, and it also explains like why the Imperium never retires any of their ships, because a lot of ships will just keep fighting until they're eventually rendered to scrap and then just dropped off on a garbage planet somewhere to be recycled by a hive world or something. The Imperium needs its ships right the fuck now. There is no time to take them off the front line. There is a Black Crusade coming right now. We need to fight the forces of hell right now. Any damage you take, you just substitute it with raw manpower. And over time, that's what happens. They slowly get degraded more and more over time.
They're also still not beating the trireme allegation.
Oh, actually, really fast. I don't know if this is canon. Argue about it in the comments below. I remember seeing a lore blurb. I remember seeing a lore blurb that was really fucking funny that some ships, like the really old ones, the esoteric ones, they have no idea how the engines or reactors work anymore. They can still build them because they have the automated factories that keep building them, but they've completely forgotten how the factories work. This is like pure Factorio spaghetti madness, okay?
It's really just we've lost all the knowledge how to build it, but
the
we
factory,
have the automation for it.
Yeah, the factory's still going. So instead of like refueling the engine, they just take the entire engine block of the ship off, take the reactor out, throw the reactor out, and then they just put a new one in and off they go. Which is hilarious to me that some ships and reactors, they've just forgotten how to fill up the fuel tank, which is really funny, and I choose to believe that it's canon, because that's really silly.
That's canon to me, and that's all that matters.
Yeah. So that's pretty much the end of what I wanted to talk about. If you have any questions or anything you want to talk about, we can do it now.
Yeah. Why did hold on. I took a note here.
The first time you ever took a note? Oh God.
You should know what's coming.
I'm nervous about this. I'm genuinely scared.
It's not. Yeah. Why did Sam Maggs write Marin having sex with a person that they just met?
Oh my God. This isn't even
like
related.
3 days ago. I'm sorry. It's been on my mind ever since. Why did we write this into a novel? In between the games.
Okay. Well, the video is over. Thank you, everybody, for coming. What a fucking end. What an ending, Steve. Thank you. So ignoring all of that and whatever the hell Steve's problem is with that video, if you've made it this far, you are clearly the target audience, so why not leave a like, subscribe, comment down below, ring the bell to be notified of future releases, do all of that great stuff that helps us out against the YouTube algorithm. And if you want to go the extra mile, you're feeling generous, we do have channel memberships where you get early access to videos, occasionally get to vote on videos that get made, and generally contribute to Sci's Stayin' Alive Fund. If you just want to hang out or join our small but growing community, we do have a Discord where you can share memes, play video games, talk about nerd stuff, and generally just hang out with like-minded individuals. To all the people already supporting the channel, a huge thank you to the coffee vendors. Your support is greatly appreciated in my never-ending fight against sleep. To the food merchants, making sure that my co-host is well-fed and alive enough for these videos, a huge thanks to you guys as well. Imperial rations definitely aren't enough to motivate him to stay in the basement and record videos. And to the arms dealers, a very special thank you. You guys go above and beyond, and you have provided me with so many tools and toys presented in today's video that I now have to find a way to convince the IRS that my fleet of Imperial warships is indeed a tax-deductible business expense. So thank you all very much for your support. And with that, the video is functionally over. Part 2 will be out in probably 2 weeks because I'm going on vacation in Nova Scotia for a week. With that, I got nothing else to say. Bye-bye!